Okay, so cleaning up the bloody mess once and for all. So just a quick recap of what we went, how we got here. We had Joe's dilemma. Joe was a family man. He wanted to plan a trip to Disney with his family for a vacation. He did not have enough money for it, so he decided that he was going to charge it on his credit cards to the sum of $5,000. He maxed it out. We saw that with a minimum payment of $100 a month, $87.50 went to the bank, and only $12.50 actually went to the principal. And it was going to take him 400 months, which is equivalent to 33 years of paying back this debt if he did nothing else but pay the bare minimum. So now let us see what this thing called debt does and what it looks like for us. So there are certain things that we have to understand first. Why interest is the number one reason you will never be wealthy. The average American household is $240,000 in debt. And Americans are 11 trillion in consumer debt, revolving debt. That's debt where there's an interest on it that continues. You can have it on credit cards, anything that you borrow money on. Then you have the US debt has increased by 700% since 1971, which means that a lot of people are finding themselves in a lot of debt. And we need to figure out how to stop this. Number 4, 43% of all Americans spend more than they make. And 76% of all Americans live check to check, which means that if something happens, Lord forbid, like another pandemic, like we just now experienced, and people get laid off, they don't have enough money. And we see here that 75% of all Americans don't have 6 months saved. That's a scary thing because, like I said before, if something happens like the pandemic again, what are we going to do? What are we going to rely on? And another sad statistic is number 7, 27% of all Americans have zero saved, which means that they are one catastrophe away from being broke. So ask yourself, how long have you been working? And then the second question is, do you have what you should have? So let's say you've been working for 10 years. In that 10 years time, have you saved at least 6 months in savings? If the answer is no, that's a pretty scary situation to be in. So if anyone can claim you owe by way of a debt, you are in no control of that area of your life. In fact, biblical principle, Proverbs 22:7 says, the borrower is the slave of the lender. So what does it mean to be a slave of? It means that you are at their mercy. They make the demands. They tell you how much you're going to pay, when you're going to pay it, and how soon it's going to take for you to get out of it. We shouldn't be a slave to anybody. But when we don't have the money to buy the things that we use for credit, we end up becoming a slave to the lender. So number 2, we have the lost opportunity cost. That means that $5,000 can cost you $1 million. How do we come up with that? So the interest that you are putting, or that the money that you're paying in interest, if you did not have that debt, it can be put into an account which has compound interest that could be making you money. But because you're now paying the high interest, and we saw that it was $87.50, that money is money that you'll never see again. You'll never get that money back. So that's a lost opportunity to be investing that money. So number 3, money never stops working. It only stops working for you. So the way we have to look at it is, if money is always working, it's either we're doing the right things and money begins to be our friend and it works for us, or we're doing the wrong thing and money becomes the friend of where it's going to. But it never stops working. As long as it's not sitting on a table dormant and it's going from hand to hand, it's either going into your hands or it's going in the hands of somebody else. So we need to figure out how we can get more of that money coming back into our own pockets. So what is the lost opportunity cost? Exactly what I said before. It's when every time you are paying money in interest, you are losing an opportunity to invest it in yourself, to make money work for you, to have more money in your pockets. So we need to figure out what we are going to do so that we start seeing more of the money. So here we're going to come across the solutions now. So one, you have to start distinguishing your needs from your wants. Everything that you see, you don't need it. If it's not food, if it's not your living situation, if it's not, reasonable clothing or whatnot, you don't need it. That is a want. And we need to understand our needs from our wants. Your wants are what's causing you to be broke. But your needs, they need to be taken care of. So we have to start attacking revolving debt with an all massive attack. What does that mean? It means that any revolving debt that you have, any interest that you're paying someone else, you need to double down, triple down, quadruple on getting that paid off. So you want to start with whatever has the highest interest, put all your extra money into that so that the interest comes off of that as fast as possible and you can start getting that principal taken care of. And on the other ones, you give them the minimum that they're asking because you don't want to not pay anything, but you need to focus on the one with the highest interest first. And then once you're done with that one, then you focus on the rest. You do the same thing across the boards. So you have to understand that credit card debt is a debt of A, emotional immaturity, B, lack of self-control, C, you submitting to weakness, and D, making poor choices. So we've got to get out of the emotional immaturity that causes us to spend unnecessarily. Whenever we do that, we're exercising a lack of self-control because we know that we have debt that needs to be taken care of, but we put our wants ahead of that using emotional immaturity, which is submitting to a weakness. And it also means that you're making bad choices because if you have debt, you're going to continue to be a slave to the lender. So you need to get that taken care of. So ask yourself, how much more would I have if I had no debt? So how much more money would come into your pockets if it was not going out to pay somebody else to make somebody else rich? And then you need to automate that process. So you need to look at that collectively, totally, of how much is going out, what do I need to do to prevent that from happening, and how can I erase that as fast as possible so that I can start collecting more of that money? You need to take every disposable dollar, it should go towards your credit card debt. That means that if you don't eat out a couple of times out of the month, whatever you saved, it needs to go onto that credit card. You need to figure out how to do some free stuff until you get out of debt. And you need to make a personal transformation. The person that you were that got you into the situation cannot be the same person who gets you out. It means that you need to change your mindset that got you in here. So if you had a mindset that said wants come first, you need to change that. You need to say, I need to concentrate on getting myself out of this debt so that I have more money coming into the household. And remember, interest is a penalty you pay for the right to own things you can't afford in advance. That's from Brian N. Bean. Brian says that he uses his assets to buy his toys. And that's what we should do. We need to be able to invest that money that we're giving everybody else who's investing it for their pockets We need to do that for ourselves. And when we can afford things, meaning you have if the car costs $30,000, you have $30,000 to pay the car, not make payments on a vehicle. Just because you can make the payments doesn't mean that you can afford the vehicle. So now we get back into Joe. Joe ran into a friend of his who suggested that he should work with the experts at MWR Financial. And by working with those experts, they were able to show Joe that by getting an instant pay raise from his job would cut down on his taxes, which Joe could be able to see on his paycheck. He could use that money, that positive cash flow that he has coming back into his household, that along with his elimination program or the debt elimination program, if he takes that money that he saved, he can start eliminating the high interest from his credit cards. And by using this system across all his debt, Joe was able to get from out of the bloody mess quicker than what his lenders were expecting him. And Joe was able to take that money that would have been lost to his lenders and finally start accumulating wealth. So once he was able to figure out what was causing him to get into the mess, working with MWR and their experts, he was able to get himself out of debt even faster and then start their accumulation process. And finally, as a result of that, Joe was finally free from the bloody mess. So are there any questions? I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. So if there are any questions, we can, all right, ask them mute. Any questions from anybody?
Right. Good job. Good job. Thank you for that information.
Oh, you're welcome. Loretta, hi. Do you have any questions about tonight's presentation? Oh, there you go.
Hi. Yeah. You know what? I just got on 5 minutes ago, so I'm gonna have to catch it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
I appreciate you tuning in.
Yeah. Well, I said my guests are late, so but I'll get back on again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
no, I appreciate you being here. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Kevin, did I go over everything correctly?
Yes, you went over everything. Excellent.
Is there anything that you would like to add?
Yeah, well, you know what, and I, thank you for inviting me in to the event tonight. One of the things, as always, is with our plethora of services, we have experts in all areas to help you in your finances, and you did describe that. And you just want to let people know is, when you work with our organization, you don't have to worry about divulging all private information, because we have expert CPAs, IRAs, from the IRS, public accountants, whatever it may be with your taxes, your debt. If you're into real estate, you will be divulging information to them. We are the messengers to give you the message so you can seek help. That's what we do. We are educators in the financial arena. So that's what we do. And that's the poise that, Cynthia is trying to get all her friends, family, and all above to understand this new movement, the extra digit movement. What we're trying to do is get money back from big business, money back from the IRS, and put it back into your pocket, but also allowing you to build wealth. So that is the total key. But it always also starts with looking at where you're at and trying to get that instant pay raise, and again, our experts are there to help. They're here to do all the work for you. You don't have to worry about what do I do. Most people, if they want to go to experts, or they have to pay an extreme amount to even talk to someone about their taxes. When you become a member of our services, you can call them 24 hours a day. You have access to our experts via your portal. So again, this is not where something you do it one time, you hit it and quit it. It ain't, that don't happen. You have ongoing communications with some of our experts in every area of your financial walk and your blueprint to success and to making things back on track, Richard, basically. So again, if you haven't seen Cynthia's 10-minute video, I would implore you to go out, reach out to her and say, hey, let me check out that video so you can see how we're trying to help our family, how we're trying to help our friends, how we're trying to help people get back on track. Because that's the basic thing, because, you know, due to the pandemic, everybody was in scarcity mode, you know, but with a home-based business, you know, you don't have to be in scarcity mode. You can work from home and still doing what you're doing. And if this pandemic starts, you know, if this new variant starts to get really stringent and we start going back, then people are going to get afraid again.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's going to happen. So, but understanding, if you had a home-based business, you are what is called in taxation above the line instead of below the line. You know, you have 450 tax deductions you can deduct. You can have your children have those be right off. You can even have your dog be a part of your organization if he is going to help you in your business, which is tax code. But again, knowing what the experts know what to do. We have IRS consultants to help you with that. So that's the difference. You know, we're not blowing smoke, and no, we have professionals, and that's one thing we pride ourselves in, and having professionals in multitude of areas. So again, if anyone wants to throw out a question, please do. You know, if it's just about, you know, about debt, you know, even our bill shredder, you have your light bill, your gas bill. We have one of our programs that will help have your bills deducted. They negotiate, they call each of your bills and negotiate a lower payment to put money right back in your pocket. That's another part of our program that will help you put money back into your pocket.
I know that was a huge service for James and I. What we got from out of that alone was great, because we were spending a lot of money on our bills. So just being able to have someone negotiate, and them being able to know the information to talk to these people that we didn't know, you know, what, on our cell phone bill, I saved $115 on that alone. So, I mean, when it doesn't sound like a lot, but when you take that $115 in savings and you multiply that by a year, that saved us $1,380. That's $1,380 that we can now invest and get compound interest. And in a few years, that 1,380 can turn into, I don't know, 15,000.
15,
but,
there you go. Yeah,
you know, but we wouldn't have, if we hadn't have talked with the experts, we wouldn't have known anything about that. And that just would have been money that they'd have been collecting. And apparently, you know, it can be done because they did it, but we didn't have that information to do it. We needed experts that go in there and talk and ask those questions and negotiate. And like I said, every month I was paying $264 every month, $264 every month, and they was taking it happily every month. And then, you know, that once the experts went, I'm like, hold on, what they do that I didn't do? Because I'd be calling them all the time trying to negotiate, but they did it. You know, they did it. And like I said, that's $1,380 that we now have in our pocket. So
that's good. And I'm glad you expounded and you gave your personal spirit. Just like LeBron James, just like, you know, Michael Jordan, they have coaches. They have coaches to look at their game. Everybody loved looking at, you know, talking about Michael Jordan, talk about, you know, some of the greats in football, some of the greats in basketball, some of the greats that dance. But they all have great coaches. See, your coach in financial is a financial professional who's a coach to you. You know, some of the great business people, they have coaches to help them. They don't know everything, you know. So when you have a coach, you have somebody who's going to guide you, give you a roadmap to where you need to go. And that's what our experts do. So again, most people don't have access to this type of exposure in financial world. They can't. You know, these are some of the things that, you know, only people who are wealthy start to understand. Then we start to step into land banking. What is land banking? Land banking is owning what is called Silicon Valley 2. learn to access that, not just having, so, and then we start talking about being your own bank, private reserve accounts, when you can start investing and having that reserve. And just imagine learning how to buy, if you wanted to buy a car or buy something, and buying it from yourself, getting the money from yourself. That's what a private reserve PRA would help you. And that's what we do in our organization. So those are just some of the things, as well as real estate. Imagine you want to buy real estate and you don't have to go out there and look at the property. You don't have to get the investors. You don't have to get anything. But we have an organization that will help you do it. They do all the work and you get paid for it.
What's the PRA?
Yeah, private reserve. That's called private reserve account. So again, whoever's asking that question, get back with Cynthia, and we can kind of go more in detail. But if you have not seen her video or 10-minute video, everyone who's on this call who hasn't, they need to look at it and really evaluate themselves and say, is this valuable? Do I need this? If it's not, then okay, that's fine. But if you're in a position where you don't have that money on the side, then you need to really look at the man in the mirror and say, hey, I need to get myself on the roadmap. So, I mean,
that's something that I do like is, being able to talk with the experts and being able to say, this is where I want to go, and them being able to help assist you to get where you need to be at and giving you the information, because that's what a lot of us are missing. We just don't, we want it, but we don't know how to get it. So being able to talk with experts and them being able to say, okay, this is where you want to be at. This is what you have to do, because you don't think that you don't have to do work. You do have to work, but it's a lot easier when you're working with someone that is knowledgeable in the areas that you want to get where you want to go, and them being able to give you that blueprint. Do this, turn this in, make sure you're paying on this on time, and make sure you're doing this on time. Like I said, it definitely opened up James and I's eyes. We've never looked at money the way that we've been looking at it since joining this company, and the education that we get just with the whole team, with the whole community. I mean, it's life-changing. It's one of those things is once you know the knowledge, you can't go back to your old way of thinking, because then you have no one to blame but yourself. So but I appreciate everyone for coming on. We do have to end. So but thank you all. And if you enjoyed what you heard, get back in contact with me. I got a lot more information that I'd love to share with you all. And look forward to the next Zoom. I believe we're doing the 4 quadrants of money.
Yeah, there's also a webinar this evening, I believe.
That's right.
If everybody reach out to Cynthia and you want to see a live one of our headquarters on, I think we're talking about either real estate or investing, and you really want to see our product online, reach out to Cynthia and get the link. It is tonight at 8:30 in about 25 minutes. So yes. I implore everyone to get that information and log on.
All right. Well, thank you all for tuning in. I have to go because Zoom said goodbye. So thank you all. Hope you all enjoyed tonight's presentation. All right. Bye-bye.